Woman's mastery is indirect, through the man. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that. It sounds like an accusation. It sounds like the first shot in a war between men and women. It isn't. Schopenhauer wasn't here to hand out blame. He wasn't here to preach morality. He was here to dissect instinct. The way a biologist might study predators and prey, without romance, without excuses, without the pretty illusions we wrap around our relationships. And what he saw was that beneath the layers of culture, etiquette, and affection, men and women are still animals. And animals, even in love, follow instinct. For him, one of the deepest instincts was the will to live, a blind, relentless force pushing every living thing to survive, to secure advantage, to protect itself. That will doesn't just shape how we eat or fight or run. It shapes how we love. This is where it gets uncomfortable, because pain is not sacred. Pain is a signal. It tells the other person, your partner, your friend, your rival, that you are exposed, that your emotional armor has cracks. Schopenhauer noticed something, that women, in particular, were often more attuned to these signals than men, not out of cruelty, but because their survival strategies relied less on force and more on influence. If strength could be taken by hand, weakness could be taken by heart. But listen, if you hear this as a condemnation of women, you've already lost the thread. He wasn't describing an evil unique to one sex. He was describing a human pattern, one that men use too, in politics, in business, in friendships, in families. The truth is, we all notice weakness. Some respond with care, some respond with control. The instinct to secure advantage is older than morality. This isn't about making women villains. It's about seeing the rules of a game you've been playing your whole life, even if you never knew the game existed. When your defenses are down, the question is not if someone will notice. It's who will act and how. Some will steady you, others will steer you. And if you don't know the difference, you will mistake control for care. You will welcome the hand that tightens the leash. Schopenhauer's warning wasn't meant to divide us. It was meant to strip away the illusions that blind us to influence, to see love not only through the lens of affection, but through the lens of power. And here's the paradox. The same vulnerability that can be exploited can also be the deepest bridge to connection. The real question is, who holds that bridge? And what do they intend to do with it? Instinct is not personal. It is not moral. It simply acts. And if you don't master your pain, someone else, man or woman, will master you through it.
Schopenhauer believed that human behavior was not ruled by reason. Not really. Reason was the mask, the actor's costume, the polite fiction we told ourselves. Beneath it, there was something older, something blind, something you could not reason with. He called it the will to live. Not a will you chose, not a decision you made, but a force, raw, irrational, relentless. Every living thing, he said, was driven by it. The bird searching for food, the tree pushing roots deeper into the earth, the wolf chasing prey, and us, our ambitions, our desires, our loves and our losses. Even the moments we think are purest are shaped by this invisible force. It doesn't ask what's fair. It doesn't ask what's kind. It only asks, what will help me survive? What will give me advantage? And in relationships, advantage is not always about money or strength or status. Sometimes advantage is emotional. The one who feels less can move with less risk. The one who depends less can walk away without bleeding. Schopenhauer believed that women had, through centuries of survival, learned to master this emotional advantage, not because they were malicious, but because the world they moved through often placed them in positions of lesser physical power. And where there is less physical power, instinct finds another path. Influence, perception, the ability to read someone, to sense their state before a word is spoken. It is not magic, it is survival. But here's the truth Schopenhauer never let his readers forget. Men do this too. The boardroom, the battlefield, the quiet politics of family. Everywhere people interact, you will find the same game, played with different tools. The hunter in the wild waits for the weakest in the herd. The negotiator in the room waits for the weakest in the argument. The lover waits for the moment the other needs them more than they can afford. It is not kindness. It is not cruelty. It is instinct. And instinct does not apologize. But here's the part most people miss when they hear Schopenhauer. He wasn't saying that life is a constant fight to dominate. He was saying, if you don't see the game, you will not see the rules. And if you don't see the rules, you will always play from a position you didn't choose. Think about the last time you trusted someone completely. The last time you revealed the depth of your pain. What happened next? Did they steady you? Or did they steer you? You may still not be sure. That is the danger. The will to live does not care about your ideals. It cares about its advantage. And sometimes, that advantage is you.
Pain is not just a feeling. It's a signal. And the human animal is a creature of signals. We read faces before we read words. We hear tone before we hear meaning. We notice posture before we notice intention. Instinct doesn't wait for language. A wounded bird flutters differently. A limping deer changes the rhythm of the herd. A single cracked shell invites every scavenger to look closer. We like to believe that we are above this, that love is immune to these mechanics, that morality cancels out instinct. It doesn't. Even in the most tender moments, the old animal logic is still running in the background. Schopenhauer understood this. He saw that vulnerability draws attention. That attention can turn into connection or into control. The difference? It depends on the hands that receive it. Think of a relationship as a bridge. One side is yours, one side is theirs. Your vulnerability is the part of your side that has no guardrails. Sometimes they will walk across carefully, holding you steady. Other times, they will see the missing guardrails as an open path to move faster, to take more than you offered, to shape the bridge to their own design. And here's the hard truth. They may not even realize they're doing it, because instinct doesn't always look like a plan. It looks like a reflex. A predator doesn't sit in the grass thinking, I should exploit the weak one. It moves before the thought is complete. Humans aren't much different. A friend might advise you in a way that keeps you dependent. A partner might protect you in ways that keep you small. A colleague might help you in a way that makes you owe them. It's dressed up as care, but it's built on the architecture of advantage. You can see it in the smallest gestures. The hand that lingers on your shoulder just a little too long when you're unsure. The innocent reminder of a mistake you made months ago, dropped into a conversation at the exact moment you hesitate. The way they framed their help as a gift you could never repay. These are not always conscious moves. Sometimes they are simply instinct, wearing the clothes of familiarity. But the effect is the same. Your footing changes. You start measuring your words. You start calculating how much you owe them. And little by little, the bridge between you is no longer level. And yet, there's the paradox. Because the same vulnerability that exposes you is the same vulnerability that makes deep connection possible. The friend who sits with you in silence when you are breaking. The partner who holds you without trying to fix you. The colleague who shields you from harm without taking the credit. They're not playing the advantage. They're protecting the bridge. But to see the difference, you have to watch closely. Not in the moments when things are calm, but in the moments when you are bleeding. Do they steady your step, or do they guide your path? One keeps you whole, the other keeps you theirs. Schopenhauer's work, stripped of its 19th century edges, is not a handbook for mistrust. It is a call to awareness, to see the invisible currency we trade in every relationship. Trust, need, dependence. And to remember that the one who notices your pain holds for a moment a kind of power. It's not always abused, but it is always there. You cannot stop people from noticing your weakness, but you can decide who gets to cross the bridge it builds.
Here's the contradiction you can't escape. The same openness that can be exploited is the very thing that makes love possible. You can't wall yourself off entirely. You can't build a fortress so high that no one can see over it. Because if you do, you won't just keep out the danger, you'll keep out the depth. A heart locked for safety is also locked against connection. Schopenhauer saw the risk in vulnerability, but he also saw the hunger for it. Even those who might take advantage of weakness are still drawn to it. Why? Because vulnerability is proof you're human. It's the crack in the surface that lets the light or the knife through. Think of two people standing on opposite sides of a river. If both stand behind walls, they will never see each other clearly. If one lowers the wall, a bridge can begin to form. That bridge can carry comfort. It can carry trust. It can carry love. It can also carry control. And here's where instinct plays its quiet game. No bridge is ever neutral. It either moves both people closer to freedom or one person closer to advantage. The paradox is cruel in its simplicity. The very thing that makes you lovable also makes you influenceable. Some people understand this and guard themselves until they are impossible to reach. Others throw the gates open, hoping that love will be enough to keep harm out. Both extremes leave you alone. What works is awareness, not suspicion, not paranoia. Awareness. The awareness to notice who slows down to walk beside you and who speeds up when they see you stumble. The awareness to feel when help comes with strings and when it comes with an open hand. This is the work Schopenhauer was really pointing toward. Not hating the other, not fearing connection, but seeing clearly what is happening beneath the surface. Because connection without awareness
is dependency waiting to happen, and awareness without connection is just isolation. You will meet people who hold your vulnerability with care. They will see your cracks and step gently. You will also meet people who see the same cracks and imagine what they can take through them. Sometimes it will be the same person, just at different points in your life. That's the part no one wants to admit. There is no clear line between those who help and those who harm. The line moves. It shifts with their needs, with their fears, with the balance of power between you. The bridge is never fixed. It is built and rebuilt with every choice, every silence, every word. The paradox doesn't go away. It can't be solved. It can only be navigated. So you choose. You choose who gets close enough to cross. You choose who sees the part of you that bleeds. And you choose with the knowledge that every open door is a risk, but also a chance to be seen in the way we all hope for. Not as prey, not as a prize, but as a person.
Instinct doesn't build bridges. It builds crossings. Temporary, necessary, fragile. We've walked through this territory together, the will to live, the signal that pain sends, the bridge between vulnerability and influence. We've seen how it can ground us or shift us into someone else's design. Now, what are we left with when the philosophic dust settles and the emotional clarity arrives? Schopenhauer once wrote, "All true and pure love is sympathy. All love which is not sympathy is selfishness." Sympathy, the moment another sees your cracks and stays, not because they can fix you, but because they see your fracture and they don't flee. Contrast that with every relationship driven by the will to advantage, the seduction of control masked as care, the bridge that becomes a leash. Again, he warns not against love, but against delusion. We also learned a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. Only when he is alone that he is really free. Solitude isn't isolation. It's clarity. A safe zone where you hold your vulnerabilities without an audience, where you can breathe before you decide who crosses. And that decision, who sees your pain and what they do with it, is the ultimate expression of your freedom or surrender. Consider also Schopenhauer's hedgehog's dilemma. Porcupines huddle for warmth, but prick each other. The solution is distance carefully calibrated, a polite warmth that preserves selfhood. That is the dance of intimacy, not walls, not carnage, but the tension of proximity with restraint. We must lean toward love, but eyes open. Awareness and vulnerability can coexist. Handrail in one hand, open palm in the other. But what about the existential? Schopenhauer reminds us that the will is blind, endless, unsatisfied, a tornado within that drives every desire, every heartbreak. Even fulfillment dissolves into longing. So, mastery of your pain is not denial, it is navigation. It is knowing the currents beneath the surface so you're not swept away. And to navigate, you must first be willing to look into the water. Not the reflection you've learned to pose for, not the image you wish others would believe, but the raw, unedited surface, with every fracture, every shadow, every depth you've tried to forget. Because your pain is not a stranger. It's been walking beside you for years, whispering in your choices, pressing its weight into your silences. If you turn away from it, it will guide you in secret. If you face it, you can decide where it leads.
Schopenhauer would call this the first act of freedom, to stop running from the will that moves you, and instead to watch it clearly enough to know when it's steering you toward love and when it's steering you toward a leash. And here's the higher paradox. Pain resisted is torment, but pain accepted with waking awareness can be transcendence. Schopenhauer wrote about ascetic sages, those rare few who negate the will, not to become nothing, but to rise from the mechanics of need. This place isn't for everyone, but everyone can glimpse it. That is the final turn of our arc. You didn't invite vulnerability to manipulate you. You invited it to remind you of your humanity. But it's up to you to decide who gets to walk your bridge, who sees your cracks, who wakes you with gentle hands, or who reshapes your world. Master your pain, for no one should hold your vulnerability as a ticket to captivation. Let those who cross have reverence, not leverage. Let your pain be your compass, not your cage.
If this moved something inside you, stay. We're building something for those who don't fake it. Subscribe, not just for the content, but for the confrontation. And if this left a wound, maybe it was meant to. Sometimes the best way to go deeper is to share the pain. Share it. Someone out there still confuses being noticed with being understood. Still calls influence care. Still thinks control is just protection in disguise. This won't save them, but it might unmask the pattern. The quiet way advantage dresses itself as love. Let this reach the ones still handing over the bridge to their own heart. Let them remind them the only true safety is the kind they choose for themselves.